The ultimate deception ever pulled on the collective human consciousness was a complete degradation of the Taki. We look at them through the distorted lens of modern holiday commercialism, viewing them as nothing more than bloated, clumsy, and dim-witted birds engineered to fill dinner plates. We mock their distinctive, warbling gobble and dismiss their awkward behavior on commercial farms as a sign of evolutionary failure. But if you strip away the artificial mutations forced upon them by industrial farming and look directly at the raw, unaltered genetic architecture of the wild turkey, MELEAGRIS galliparvo, you find yourself staring into the eyes of one of the most terrifyingly complex, hyper-vigilant, and fiercely resilient survivalists on the planet. Long before human civilizations laid down their first foundations, this ancient North American lineage had already perfected a masterclass system of woodland warfare, sensory supremacy, and tactical evasion that has allowed them to survive the collapse of entire ecosystems. They are not victims of nature. They are highly advanced phantom tacticians engineered to turn the dense forest into a fortress of absolute surveillance. To comprehend the sheer biological perfection of this avian sentinel, one must first look at their godlike visual apparatus. A turkey's vision is a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering that makes human sight look practically defective. They possess a field of vision that spans a staggering 270 degrees, allowing them to detect movement behind their heads with a microscopic twitch of their neck. But their true superpower lies in their hyper-accelerated visual processing speed and color perception. While the human eye can only register a limited spectrum of visible light, a turkey's retina is densely packed with specialized cones that allow them to perceive ultraviolet light. They can see the world in colors we cannot even comprehend, identifying the microscopic reflections of dew on a blade of grass or the faint UV signature of a predator's fur shifting in the shadows kilometers away. Furthermore, their eyes process movement at a frame rate that is nearly 5 times faster than ours. To a wild turkey, a human hunter trying to raise a rifle in a fraction of a second does not look fast. It looks like an agonizingly slow, predictable movement in super slow motion, giving the bird ample time to disappear into the brush before the human brain can even register their departure. This visual supremacy is structurally backed by an equally terrifying auditory processing matrix. A turkey does not possess external ears, yet their internal auditory system is tuned to a level of acoustic precision that rivals advanced military sonar. They can pinpoint the exact geometric location of a sound, whether it is the snap of a dry twig or the safety mechanism of a shotgun being clicked off, from distances exceeding a mile away. Their brain can instantly analyze the frequency, pitch, and distance of an acoustic anomaly, calculating an instantaneous escape vector before the threat can even enter their line of sight. This makes them virtually impossible to stalk or ambush in their natural habitat. They do not wait to see what made a sound. Their nervous system is wired to execute an immediate, hardwired evasion protocol at the slightest acoustic variation in the forest symphony. But their defense grid is not merely passive. It is backed by an explosive, high-performance kinetic engine. Despite their large, heavy bodies, wild turkeys possess massive, densely muscled pectoral structures that can launch them from a dead stop into full, near-vertical flight in a fraction of a second. They can slice through the dense forest canopy at speeds exceeding 55 miles per hour, steering through a chaotic matrix of branches and trunks with the aerodynamic agility of a fighter jet. On the ground, their long, calcified, bone-dense legs can propel them into an immediate sprint of 25 miles per hour, easily outrunning most apex predators and human pursuers. They are an elite combination of a high-speed ground unit and an agile aerial interceptor, completely mastering the verticality of their woodland territory. Yet, this physical and sensory dominance is only the baseline operating system of the Taki. The true genius of their survival strategy does not lie within individual mechanics, but within a highly calculated, collective social intelligence that governs their massive flocks. They have transformed the simple act of foraging into a highly structured, militarized patrol where every single individual serves a specific tactical purpose within a fluid, unbroken defensive line. As this collective intelligence moves through the shadows of the deep woods, it deploys an advanced communication network that allows them to coordinate their movements across vast territories, setting the stage for a psychological code that dictates their absolute internal order. As the dawn mist rises off the forest floor, the wild turkey flock drops silently from their high roosting positions in the tree canopy. They do not hit the ground running in chaos. They organize instantly into a highly disciplined reconnaissance syndicate. Every single movement made by the flock is governed by a complex acoustic and behavioral language that coordinates a group with absolute precision. Turkeys possess a vast vocal arsenal consisting of over 28 distinct calls, purrs, yelps, clucks, and cutting sounds, each engineered to transmit specific tactical data across long distances without alerting predators. They do not call out blindly. They operate a real-time battlefield communication network that keeps the entire collective synchronized as they move through hostile terrain. The core of this social architecture is a profound manifestation of mutual surveillance. While a group of turkeys is ground foraging for acorns, insects, and tubers, they never drop their guard simultaneously. The flock operates a rotating sentinel system. While 3 birds have their heads down extracting nutrient from the date, 2 other birds will stand completely erect, their hypersensitive, ultraviolet-tuned eyes scanning the horizon and the sky in a relentless, sweeping rotation. Every few minutes, without a single sound being made, a silent understanding shifts through the group. The foraging birds raise their heads to assume watch duty, while the previous sentinels lower theirs to feed. This seamless rotation ensures that the collective defense grid remains active 24 hours a day, creating an unbreakable wall of observation that leaves no blind spots for a predator to exploit. If a sentinel detects an anomaly, a foreign silhouette, an unnatural texture, or a suspicious acoustic pattern, it does not panic or panic flight the flock. It emits a low, sharp, high-frequency acoustic signal known to biologists as a pit. This specific sound acts as an immediate system freeze command for the entire syndicate. Instantly, every single turkey within earshot locks its body into absolute immobility, transforming from a moving bird into a rigid, camouflaged statue that blends perfectly with the surrounding tree trunks and leaf litter. They will hold this frozen posture for 10, 20, or 30 minutes without a single muscle twitch, analyzing the environment with their independent dual process of vision. If the threat confirms its presence, a secondary, explosive alarm call is given, and the entire flock executes a synchronized, multidirectional escape pattern designed to completely confuse the sensory tracking of the attacking predator. This high level of collective coordination requires an underlying cognitive complexity that traditional science has severely underestimated. To function as a cohesive tactical unit, every turkey within the syndicate must possess advanced individual recognition capabilities. They recognize each other not just by their vocal pitches, but by the highly distinct, geometric color patterns and structural shapes of their bare heads and necks. The skin on a turkey's head is a living, shifting canvas of biological data, capable of changing color from deep red to bright blue or brilliant white in a matter of seconds based on their internal emotional state, health, and social status. By constantly reading these shifting visual cues, the flock can maintain absolute internal cohesion and track the exact psychological state of every member without executing disruptive physical conflict. This communication network becomes a weapon of absolute psychological dominance during the breeding season. The dominant males, known as toms or gobblers, coordinate their displays to establish vast territorial boundaries across the forest landscape. They expand their feathers, drop their wings to scrape the date, and unleash their iconic gobbles in a synchronized sonic bombardment that can travel for miles through the dense woods. This is not random noise. It is a calculated acoustic grid designed to locate females, intimidate lower-ranking rivals, and map out the territorial landscape of the forest. But beneath this grand, public display of dominance lies a secondary, hidden code, a ruthless internal hierarchy that dictates exactly who gets to pass on their genetic material, and who is forced to serve as a lifelong subordinate wingman in the war for genetic immortality. Within the heart of the turkey syndicate lies an invisible, unforgiving social operating system known as a stratified dominance hierarchy. To the uninitiated human eye, a gathering of male turkeys appears to be a chaotic display of vanity, a random collection of strutting birds showing off their feathers. But if you analyze their interactions through the lens of mathematical behavioral biology, you uncover a rigid, autocratic social ladder that makes human military structures look disorganized. Every single turkey is locked into a permanent, numerically defined rank that dictates their access to food, territory, and reproduction. This order is established through intense, hyper-vigilant trials of physical endurance and mental grit during their youth, and once established, it is maintained through a complex system of psychological dominance that completely eliminates internal chaos. When young male turkeys, or jakes, reach maturity, they engage in epic, non-stop duel for social dominance that can last for hours or even days. They do not peck randomly. They lock beaks in a brutal wrestling match, using their heavy bodies to twist, pull, and slam each other's heads to the ground. They weaponize the calcified, dagger-like spurs located on the backs of their legs, striking downward with intense kinetic force aimed directly at their rival's throat and chest. These battles continue relentlessly until one bird completely breaks psychologically, lowering its tail, altering the color of its head to a submissive dull gray, and retreating from the conflict. The victor takes its place on the higher rung of the ladder, while the loser accepts a lifetime of absolute subordination. The most extraordinary and unsettling aspect of this hierarchy is the phenomenon of sibling coalitions. Male turkeys from the same hatch line will often form tight, unbreakable brotherhood alliances that operate as a single political unit within the larger flock. These brothers will fight together against other coalitions to seize control of the local territory. However, within that victorious brotherhood, only one single bird, the absolute alpha tom, is ever allowed to mate with the hens. The other brothers will spend their entire lives strutting, displaying, and defending the alpha, acting as a highly coordinated security detail and visual amplification team. They willingly suppress their own reproductive desires, sacrificing their individual evolutionary success to ensure that their brother's identical genetic lineage dominates the forest. This level of altruistic, calculated cooperative behavior requires an advanced understanding of genetic kinship and social strategy that completely shatters the myth of the brainless bird. This stratified code ensures that the flock operates with absolute efficiency when facing environmental stress. When resources are scarce during harsh winters, the dominance hierarchy dictates the distribution of energy with cold, mathematical precision. The alpha birds eat first, consuming the highest quality food sources to maintain their prime physical condition, while the subordinates wait on the periphery, surviving on the leftovers. While this appears cruel, it is a highly evolved survival algorithm designed to guarantee that the strongest, most resilient genetic assets of the species survive the crisis to reproduce, rather than allowing the entire group to weaken and collapse through equal distribution. But this system of internal control faces its greatest test when the boundaries of the forest are breached by an outside force. The dominance hierarchy instantly shifts from an internal sorting mechanism into an external offensive weapon. When a predator or rival flock attempts to invade their established territory, the alpha toms do not hide behind their subordinates. They move directly to the front line, coordinating their physical attacks with military synchronization. They use their collective mass, flashing spurs, and terrifying vocal displays to intimidate and repel forces that are twice their size. They have turned social stratification into a biological shield, an unbreakable network of organized power that has allowed them to resist the encroachment of nature's most lethal hunters. Yet, nothing could have prepared their ancient software for the sudden, catastrophic disruption of the modern industrial age. In the 20th century, human civilization executed a massive, high-tech intervention on the wild turkey genome, isolating specific genetic traits to construct the modern industrial white turkey. Through a hyper-intensive process of artificial selection, automated climate control, and advanced nutritional engineering, humans created a biological anomaly, a bird designed to grow at a rate that completely defies the laws of natural avian development. The modern commercial turkey is engineered to produce an overwhelming volume of breast muscle, growing so massive in a matter of weeks that they lose the ability to fly, run, or even reproduce naturally. They have been transformed into highly specialized industrial meat processors, a massive ocean of captive biomass engineered to fuel the global human food supply chain with clinical efficiency. This industrial mutation has turned the domestic turkey into one of the most heavily monitored, chemically managed technological assets on Earth. Inside the high-density megastructures of modern poultry complexes, millions of birds are raised under artificial lighting arrays designed to manipulate their metabolic clocks, forcing them to feed continuously. Their immune systems are reinforced through a non-stop regimen of biosecurity protocols and genetic tuning, desperately trying to protect this highly concentrated biomass from the ever-present threat of environmental pathogens. Humanity transformed the ultimate forest ranger into a passive, white-feathered commodity, seemingly erasing millions of years of predatory survival software in a single century of intensive farming. But while humanity focused its technological power on constructing this fragile, captive industrial derivative, the wild turkey population was executing an entirely different, highly explosive biological miracle on the outside. By the early 1930s, human overhunting and massive deforestation had pushed the wild turkey to the absolute brink of extinction, reducing their numbers to a mere fraction of their original population. But then, a series of radical wildlife restoration programs, combined with the bird's own legendary genetic resilience, triggered the greatest population rebound in the history of North American wildlife. Wild turkeys did not just recover. They adapted their ancient forest software to handle the modern, human-dominated landscape with terrifying ease. The wild turkey proved to be the ultimate ecological generalist. When their pristine old-growth forests were cut down, they did not slip into extinction. They reprogrammed their foraging algorithms to exploit agricultural fields, suburban woodlots, and golf courses. They expanded their diet to include over several hundred distinct food sources, from waste grain and commercial crops to small lizards, amphibians, and insects. Their hypersensitive, touch-enhanced beaks allow them to locate food buried deep beneath winter snow or agricultural soil, turning human industrial outputs into an infinite, high-energy fuel source for their expanding syndicates. Today, millions of wild turkeys have successfully colonized every single state in the continental United States, frequently expanding their territories directly into suburban neighborhoods and urban parks, completely ignoring human boundaries. This parallel existence, the hyper-industrialized captive biomass on one side and the hyper-adaptable wild survivor on the other, has created a fascinating, highly volatile biological dynamic. The wild turkey stands as a permanent, living genetic backup drive, completely immune to the structural vulnerabilities that threaten the fragile industrial complexes. While a single viral mutation could theoretically devastate the genetically identical populations of commercial facilities, the wild syndicates continue to sharpen their immune systems through constant exposure to the natural elements, maintaining their razor-sharp survival software in the shadows of human civilization, waiting patiently for the global environmental balance to tip once more. If human civilization were to suffer a catastrophic collapse, whether triggered by global systemic failure, an economic meltdown, or a technological blackout that silences our global infrastructure, the massive, fragile networks of industrial farming would instantly disintegrate. The millions of domestic turkeys trapped within the climate-controlled megastructures would face an immediate, absolute biological reset. But out in the surrounding woodlands, suburban edges, and overgrown agricultural fields, the millions of wild turkeys would look at the sudden silence of the human world not as a disaster, but as the ultimate green light for absolute territorial reclamation. The phantom tacticians of the forest would step out of the shadows, deploying their hyper-vigilant surveillance grids and explosive physical kinetics to conquer the crumbling landscape of the post-human era. Without human lawnmowers, chainsaws, and vehicles to disrupt their life cycles, the suburban grids of the modern world would rapidly transform into a wild, semi-forested savanna, the absolute prime habitat for the wild turkey syndicate. The abandoned asphalt highways and concrete foundations would serve as perfect, flat strutting zones where the alpha tone could coordinate their massive acoustic displays without any structural sound barriers. The overgrown residential neighborhoods would provide an endless bounty of seed-bearing weeds, insect-rich tall grass, and fruit-bearing ornamental plants, fueling a massive, unchecked population explosion that would ripple across continents within a few decades. Their highly militarized social architecture would allow them to dominate the emerging food chains of the New World. The rotating sentinel system and unihemispheric visual processing would make their flocks completely impenetrable to the predatory advances of feral dogs, cats, and expanding coyote populations. They would move through the ruins like organized infantry units, their rapid-fire visual systems identifying ground threats long before they can strike, while their powerful pectoral engines launch them safely into the high concrete ledges and decaying roof of abandoned buildings to roost securely through the dark nights. They would turn our forgotten architecture into a vertical fortress of absolute survival. Over deep geological time, free from the pressure of human hunting and chemical management, the wild turkey genome will begin to execute a magnificent, unpredictable expansion. The ancient theropod dinosaur DNA sleeping within their genetic code would respond to the vacant ecological niches left behind by extinct species. We could see lineages of turkeys growing larger and more aggressive, their calcified leg spurs evolving into massive, lethal hunting weapons as they reclaim their status as apex bipedal predators of the forest floor. Other branches might optimize their high-speed flight mechanics, turning into specialized aerial scouts that track the changing seasonal climates across vast, while continents. They would fracture into a diverse, beautifully complex family of avian survivors, completely erasing the memory of the bloated farm animal from the history of Earth. The turkey has successfully navigated the longest, most dangerous path in the history of avian survival. They outlasted prehistoric predators, resisted the brutal encroachment of human industrial expansion, and maintained their elite tactical software completely intact beneath the surface of a changing world. They never truly belonged to our agricultural systems. They merely used our landscapes to bide their time, sharpening their senses and expanding their numbers in the shadows of our empires. As the fragile matrix of human civilization inevitably fades into the geological record, the magnificent, iridescent phantom of the forest will stand victorious on the highest roost, unleashing a definitive, echoing gobble across the vast, wild horizon of a reclaimed planet. If you want to unearth the deep, hidden evolutionary secrets of the animal kingdom and explore the terrifying biological forces that secretly control the landscapes of our world, make sure to subscribe to the channel, activate all notifications, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on this unstoppable woodland superpower.